We are seeing signs of an increased likelihood of a pattern change for the second half of June. Will this bring stormy weather to your neighborhood? Let's dive right into our forecast here at the Weather Farm. As we begin our Wednesday, we are watching an area of showers across central Texas down towards Louisiana. These are a little bit stronger than what we had anticipated, but nothing severe or tornadic at this moment. We also see scattered showers across parts of Alabama into Georgia. We still have that area of low pressure that is up over Quebec. It is keeping a generally cooler flow across far northern New England and bringing the chance of showers throughout our Wednesday morning. There's even enough cold air on the backside of the system that we are seeing some snow showers just south of Hudson Bay across those higher elevations of Ontario. Out across the west, low pressure is centered over Utah and Nevada border. It is bringing a light amount of rain for eastern Oregon into southwestern Idaho. That will continue to move off and dissipate throughout the day. So let's put our map into motion for our Wednesday. What I'm noticing is that these showers here across parts of Idaho and Montana, as they go up and over the mountains, they're getting enough lift that the models are wanting to indicate some heavier amounts of rain across parts of Idaho and Wyoming, as well as these little showers that are popping up across Colorado and New Mexico. We even have some heavier amounts of rain for northern Iowa into southern Minnesota. Across parts of Texas, we are also watching for the chance of some severe weather and heavier thunderstorms. As we go towards the night, we see those showers continuing, becoming more numerous across the northern Rockies, through Montana, through Wyoming, and then lesser showers across southern Wisconsin into Iowa and across parts of Texas. Florida, you're even going to get in on evening rains that will be widely scattered at best. And finally, that low pressure system is moving out into the Atlantic, out of the Canadian provinces, but we do have a chance of some showers across far northern Maine Wednesday night. Our Storm Prediction Center has gone ahead and highlighted three main areas for the chance of severe weather. As we looked at, we have the northern Rockies here for that chance as we get that orographic lift with the system moving across the Rockies and depositing heavy amounts of rain. We have that area here in Iowa into southern Wisconsin that we saw developing over Wednesday night. And we also have an area here across southern and central Texas with a greater chance of a slight risk just through the north and west of the Houston area. And in fact, we don't really expect anything too severe other than maybe a slight chance of a tornado here across Texas from near San Antonio towards the Houston area. But in most areas, the main threat is going to be hail and strong winds. Jumping back to our map and our future radar, let's look as we go overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. We still see showers and storms across parts of Montana, stretching down towards Iowa, as well as heavy amounts of rain here across central Texas. Elsewhere, it's just scattered showers across the southeast for our Thursday morning. As we go through the day on Thursday, we're going to continue to watch heavy amounts of rain across the south. We're now getting more of a northwesterly flow. We can see that here with our pressure lines. We're going to see more rain across parts of Montana into North Dakota. One of these cells could spin up and become severe during our Thursday afternoon. As we go through the afternoon, we see storms popping across central Minnesota, down through Nebraska into northeastern Colorado. While across parts of Texas, we're going to continue to see those isolated storms firing for our Thursday afternoon into Friday evening. What's causing all this? As we begin our Wednesday, we're going to see this area of low pressure here in West Texas, southeastern New Mexico. It's going to be enough of a little ripple that it's going to create enough instability in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Here we're looking at the 300 millibar map, the jet stream level. But that instability is going to be enough to fire those storms across Texas. And as that moves into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys Thursday and Friday, it's going to bring an associated chance of rain for those areas later in the week. Across the northern, we have the jet stream well to the north throughout the Canadian provinces. A slight dip across Ontario and Quebec. That's allowing those systems to ride up and over and then down through the northern tiers of the United States. It's why we think we can have severe weather across the Dakotas into Minnesota for our Thursday. But as we go towards the weekend, that low pressure starts to move off into the north and east. We still have a better chance of continued severe weather across the central plains for our Friday. And as we go into the weekend, the jet stream does calm down a little bit. We do get a little bit more of a zonal flow from west to east. We have a couple shortwave disturbances that are going to move out of the southwest through the central plains. That's going to keep that daily chance of thunderstorms going. It's not going to be a widespread synoptic feature that we're looking at with a cold front or or a dry line, but what we're seeing are more mesoscale features, subtle things within the atmosphere that are going to help instigate random pop-up thunderstorms for our weekend. But as we go into early next week, we're going to see this high pressure area start to build across the southwest. This is going to really keep the jet stream far to our north. It's going to keep the severe weather to our north. But what we're seeing as we go into our Monday is we're starting to see this trough develop off the coast of way out into the Pacific. We have the high pressure, and we start to see a little bit of buckling here across the lower south central plains, even into the Ohio Valley. We're starting to see a little bit of a buckle in these pressure lines. Let's take this a little bit further into our Tuesday, into our Wednesday. Here is a low pressure system, a buckle in the jet stream that's digging into the California coast. We have a little bit of a trough. We see this northwesterly flow across the northern plains. This is going to reintroduce the risk of severe weather from the northern plains down through the Ohio Valley, down through the south central plains as we get towards the middle of next week. This high pressure is going to retreat off to the west, and this low pressure system and this buckle will help fuel thunderstorms and severe weather. As we go into our Wednesday, we see again more of a northwesterly flow, so the storms are going to ride up and over this ridge, down through the upper Midwest, down into the Ohio Valley. Where this all plays out, we're going to have to watch. But again, we have a low pressure system here that's going to be help create this ridging and buckling across the United States. But as we go into next Thursday, into next Friday, the end of next weekend, we see a trough across the northern tier states. We see a trough across the Northeast. We're starting to see a ridge building back across the plains. So for most areas in the Central Plains, Ohio, and Tennessee Valley, as we get toward the end of next week, the weather should be calming down. But as we go into later parts of June, we start to see another buckle forming across the northern tier. And so that's why we believe that the weather pattern is going to turn much warmer and stormier across the northern tier through the Ohio Valley and down into the Northeast. Not so much along the south, which is expected this time of the year. We really don't see our severe weather happening in the southern tier states during the month of June. As the jet stream moves towards the north, that's where we start to see the migration of the severe weather across the northern tier states. And we will continue to see that during the second half of the month of June. As we continue to play it out, we'll watch for continual ridging to occur, followed by some troughing. Here towards the end of the month, models are wanting to indicate a significant storm coming into the northwest. This is still over 2 weeks away. A lot can definitely change, but it is a sign that the pattern is changing across the United States. Over the next more immediate future, as we look at our Wednesday, we're going to look at the Supercell Composite Index. And so again, when we start seeing those yellows and those oranges, those are areas where we're going to be looking for the potential for severe weather or pop-up severe supercells. So as we go through the day Wednesday, we're going to watch them here across parts of South Dakota into Nebraska, maybe into Iowa. As we go into our Thursday afternoon, we're going to watch again in that same area, South Dakota, Nebraska, into southwestern Minnesota, not so much into Texas for our Thursday. Saturday, we're going to watch for a little more stronger signal across parts of Oklahoma and Texas for severe weather. And that overnight, it's going to be mainly confined to the Central Plains. But our Sunday into our Sunday night, we are looking at the potential for some significant weather across the Dakotas into Nebraska. Even down here into Texas, we could have some severe weather. All of this is going to bear some watching over the next several days. Taking a look at our radar across Texas, we see a pretty strong line of storms for our Wednesday morning, stretching from near Dallas down towards the coast. Embedded within these are some isolated heavy amounts of rain and some severe weather. We could get some strong winds out of this. But as we go through the afternoon, this is really going to die down. We think that the greatest chance of severe weather, especially in this area north and west of Houston, is going to be during the middle of the day. As we get later in the day, the main energy is going to move off to the north, though we do see showers refiring across southern Texas into West Texas for our Wednesday night. But we could also not rule out an additional isolated supercells firing anywhere across this area Wednesday evening. We're going to have strong moisture pool off of the Gulf Coast. That's going to provide enough moisture content and just the right amount of instability. We saw with our jet stream map, there is an upper level low across Texas that's going to provide enough lift that we could get a storm or two firing across this area Wednesday night. So we'll watch that. We don't expect any of them to become tornadic. We actually expect them to kind of form into a line pretty similar to what we saw Tuesday night into Wednesday night. And as we wake up on our Thursday, we're seeing another line of storms with heavy amounts of rain and some embedded strong winds and hail across most of Texas from southern Oklahoma down towards Brownsville, Texas. And as we go through our Thursday, more of the same. Heavy amounts of rain for the eastern quarter of Texas, moving into Louisiana as we make our way into Thursday afternoon into Thursday night. And all that energy then starts to move off to the north and east through Arkansas and Missouri. Across the northern plains for our Wednesday morning, we're going to see showers across parts of western North Dakota into South Dakota. These are going to be very isolated and scattered, but they could produce heavy amounts of rain and strong winds and hail. As we go through the day Wednesday, we're going to see the daytime heating and the moisture flow from the south aid in the development of additional storms, especially across South Dakota into southwestern Minnesota. The real variable within this is the amount of moisture that's going to be transported northward. There is some dry air off to the south and west. How much that moisture flow is impacted by that dry air will determine the level of severe weather across South Dakota and Minnesota for our Wednesday afternoon. But as we go overnight, we're going to see those storms continue to fire across southern Minnesota and northern Iowa. But as we go through the day Thursday, we're going to see new storms start to refire as they make their way out of Wyoming and Montana through the Dakotas. And even here, we're going to have a little cluster of storms as we wake up Thursday morning across eastern South Dakota and southwestern Minnesota. All of this is going to continue to move off to the east as that jet stream is pretty much along the Canadian border and moving in a west to east pattern. So the same areas are going to get hit with heavy amounts of rain for the next 48 hours across the Dakotas into Minnesota. Then we have a line of storms that is going to form out of Wyoming and Colorado Thursday night into Friday morning. That could produce heavy rain for Nebraska as we go into Friday morning. Temperatures for your Wednesday are going to be relatively warm for this time of the year, especially across the Central Plains. Parts of Iowa could be in the mid 90s for your afternoon highs. Elsewhere, it's 70s and 80s for the most part. Across Texas, where you're going to have that cloud cover, that rainfall happening throughout the day, temperatures here are going to be held down into the 70s and 80s. Out across the desert Southwest, you are in the 100s plus for your Wednesday. Much of the same for our Thursday. Where we see the cooler temperatures is going to be indicative of where that rainfall and that cloud cover is from parts of Missouri down through Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma into Texas, as well across the Dakotas. Here, temperatures are going to be held down due to the precipitation. Phoenix, you're approaching 110 for your afternoon high. 90s have made their way up into Virginia, up through Jersey, towards New York City for your Thursday. As we go through our Friday, we're going to see a rebound in temperatures across the South Central Plains, 80s and 90s across Texas. The deserts continue to sizzle in the 100s. We see 70s and 80s across the northern tier. But where that rain has made its way into Minnesota and northern Wisconsin and the UP, highs are only in the 50s and 60s for your Thursday. 80s and 90s across the Ohio and Tennessee Valley, with temperatures mostly in the 80s across parts of Florida. And your first sneak peek at your weekend shows warmth building across the Central Plains with that ridging developing. Highs in the 80s and 90s, 100s across the Four Corners region, 70s and 80s out in the eastern half of the United States, and across the northern tier, we're beginning to warm back up, 80s and 90s for the Dakotas into Montana. Taking a look at our tropics, over the next 7 days, we really don't expect any development of tropical weather for the Atlantic basin. But if we do look at the eastern Pacific, this is where we've seen the most activity. Hurricane Barbara, what was once Hurricane Barbara, has much dissipated by the time we get to Wednesday morning. Tropical storm Cosme is continuing to spin. It's not really moving that much, and its main impact could bring some showers and some unsettled weather to the Baja over the Father's Day weekend, but we really don't expect this to move very much over the next 48 hours. We are watching a couple of other areas of development, one that has a 60% chance of development over the next 48 hours, another area about a 40% chance of development. So we'll continue to watch this as well as any developments across the Atlantic basin over the next 48 hours. We thank you for joining us here at the Weather Farm for your Wednesday forecast. We hope you have a wonderful day. Stay tuned. Make sure you have a way to stay weather aware if severe weather is in your neighborhood, and we'll see you again on Friday.